Hi, I'm Ira Block, Sony Artisan of Imagery. In this video, you will learn about the key components of a photo, including composition and moment. When I'm shooting people, besides moments, there's nuances and body language. It's these little things that take a good or average picture and transform it into a great image. It's a small nuance, but to me it's very important, especially if you're doing something like a silhouette. This picture of the fisherman is almost there for me. It's not perfect. I have a couple of issues with it. The main issue is that his head is not turned enough for me to see a profile of his nose. It's a great picture, I'm happy with it, but what would make me happier had I had his head turned just a little bit more so I'd get the profile of the nose. I get very picky about my photos, but you have to. You have to look at your photos critically and learn from them so in the future you'll make better images. In this image, I did get the guy's nose, plus this has a little more layering. I've got his boat in the foreground. The motor of the boat really stands out and has a nice shape. He's at the bow of the boat with his fishing net, and in the background is another boat going through the water. And all this is happening in some beautiful golden light with a little fog going on. It's, really a nice image. And again, I'm at a high shutter speed. Look at that boat in the background. It looks like a canoe with a motor on it. That's the kind of boat I'm shooting from. So the boat I'm shooting from is bouncing around a bit. High shutter speed, and your picture's not blurry. In Myanmar, I saw this novice monk adjusting his robe, and there was beautiful backlighting coming through a doorway, and it gave this terrific silhouette effect. So I did this picture, but I stayed with the situation. This picture's not bad, but let's look at the next picture. His robe drops just a little bit. I was careful about my metering on this picture. I just wanted the detail of the light coming through the red robe. And I could see his face, and I could see the silhouette of his nose, and I'm really lucky he's getting a beautiful little highlight on his face. Even when you do landscapes, and I like to include people in my landscapes, I look for these nuances. Here's a boat going into a little village. Now, it looks like a fine image, but the people aren't as defined and you don't see much action. The next image, however, look at the paddles. The paddles are out of the water. They're holding the paddles. The body language is different and makes the image much more dynamic. The same thing is happening here. I was photographing these fishermen in front of Mount Fuji. Not a bad picture. Again, foreground, a fisherman. Middle ground, I've got this layer of fog. In the background, I have Mount Fuji with a little cloud over the top of the mountain. Picture's not bad, but look at the fisherman in the foreground. He looks okay, but in the next image, he's got his hands up. Just a little different body language, for me, makes the picture better. In photography, you're combining a lot of elements in your image, a lot of things going on. There are things that add to the picture, which make it a great picture, just as there are things that distract from the picture. Stuff in the background, garbage in the background, busy background, bright spots in the background. Those will distract from your image. Let's look at a couple of more images from my Cuban baseball project. This is one of the young kids who's totally interested in playing ball, and I like the background, and I put a strobe on him because he had those cool sunglasses on. I love the colors in Cuba, and I tried working with the colors in Cuba. So incredible blues here, and the ball player behind the fence just attracted me right away. And what was I careful about doing in this picture? I wanted to make sure that his eye was not getting obstructed by the fence. So I look for these small little details. In this picture, I'm at a baseball game and all the action's going on behind me, but I needed more grassroots people involvement. So I turned around, I looked through the stands, and I found a couple, and I knew this couple, they were getting a little close and friendly, and I waited and I stood there and boom, they kissed. So it just made for a moment for me. I was walking outside a stadium and I noticed this ticket window, and the woman was looking out, and it looked like she was floating in space because of the way the white was. It's not a situation where I'm going to walk by and just snap the shutter and keep going. It's a situation where I want it to work for me. There's a lot going on. I'm working the composition. I'm working where she's positioned. I have to talk to the person. I have to start interacting with that person, which is an important part about being a photographer. I came over and I started shooting her. I had the 24-70 on the camera. I switched to the 16-35 because the 16-35 going wider seemed to give this more of a floating effect. It just worked well, the colors worked well, and again, I have her face in between the gate that she's looking at. So you really can get into her face. I mentioned the colors in Cuba, I mentioned the background. Here's a great example. I love this corner. The colors are terrific, and I love the fact that the walls are going at an angle. And this kid was playing baseball in front of it, and I just captured this moment. The ball's in the right place, the bat's in the right place. His clothing, the blue pants, the white shirt, all the colors really match. Had he been wearing red or black, it wouldn't have the same appeal. So there's a lot going on when you have to make a good picture. There's a lot of elements. In this picture, we just have a very quiet moment between this kid and this ball player in the dugout. The way they're looking at each other, the colors again, everything just came together and made a nice little moment. I was driving around and we saw this building and these kids playing ball. Well, this was some old sports center and the background was great. It's got the Cuban flag and it's got a baseball. It's telling my story. And I just caught the kid throwing his ball in the same position as the ball on the background, and it just made the picture. And another element is he's wearing these bright colored pants. The background has subdued colors. His pants are a little brighter. Everything starts working together. When I was shooting baseball in Cuba, I wasn't shooting it just for the action or for the news and timeliness of the game. I was trying to capture the poetry of the game of baseball. And I think this image really speaks to that. I was focused on home plate. I knew this runner was going to come in, and I got this fantastic image of the player, the dust spinning around, the body language, the colors. It just all added up. In this video, you learned about the key components of a photo, including composition and moment. Keep all this in mind, keep practicing, and you'll take better pictures.